And so in that regard, the Court of Appeal has, in a landmark decision, ruled that it is now no longer an automatic half share of matrimonial property for a divorcing couple. So you don't automatically say, okay, I'm the wife, so I take half. Nope. In a unanimous judgment that was made the other day, on Tuesday, I believe it was, a panel of 3 justices held that the spouse's share in the matrimonial property is instead dependent on his or her contribution to it. So what, you think you're going to marry a rich man and divorce him and take half? Well, I'm sorry, darling. You are going to have to calculate what your contribution to that marriage was in material terms, by the way. And that shall be your claim when you are walking away. So this ruling was based on a 2014 case in which the High Court directed that Joseph Ambayo Waigo give 50% of the property owned in the marriage to have that divided with his wife Jacqueline Aserua after the couple separated. However, Ambayo appealed against this judgment, prompting the Court of Appeal to pronounce itself on the matter on Tuesday. And in their ruling, Justices Elizabeth Musoke and Muzamiru Chibedi, and as well Christopher Gashirabake, they all stated that the marriage does not give a spouse an automatic half share in the matrimonial property. Sorry.
You seem so excited.
Of course, because how many men have been led to the slaughterhouse with wives claiming half of their assets on account of having been married, and yet he's the one that did all the work. He did all the deals. He's the one who invested and grew the family property. So now, what? Just because she ain't in love no more, she gets to walk away with half? Well, our courts will not hear of it. Sorry. So the spouse's share in the matrimonial property is dependent on his or her contribution, adding that the contribution can take either monetary or non-monetary forms.
Exactly. And that is how it has been, because the justices say that the non-monetary contribution usually consists of unpaid care and domestic work rendered by a spouse during the marriage, like caring for the children, something men don't want to accept, elderly and the sick members of the family. So if I was taking care of your mother while you are out there chasing the money, you're going to pay me.
Well,
you're going to pay me my money.
So this is going to have to lead to some bit of restructuring in terms of how the roles are divided in the marital home. And you know, like how in an office, like here, you know, if, say, someone is required to do a particular range of work, and if they add on either some extra duties or they work overtime, in many companies, it is logged, and then you then make a claim for that compensation. I wonder if now for marriages going forward, for wives who may want to claim that they made a non-material contribution to the marriage by way of providing care, won't they have to start logging hours worked in the service of providing that care? Because otherwise, she can just say, well, I looked after his mother when she was sick, and that may have been one time.
No, it depends because obviously by the time you bring it up in the courts of law, then there is proof that maybe, especially if it's an elderly person, maybe this care took, some stretch of time. For instance, I have a grandmother and she's been sick for a stretch of time. Now, if that grandmother is your grandmother and I'm taking care of her, you cannot say that I was just home sitting and, looking pretty. And by the way, the judges also said house chores are also a contribution to the family. So as a woman is at home, toiling away, taking care of you, ironing your shirts, cleaning your house, it is going to be considered.
Because in most homes, especially middle-class homes, the maid performs all of these chores.
But you see, you can hire me as your head of news, but it doesn't mean I can't hire a news anchor. So I will be doing my job and supervising the news anchor. So that's the maid. So
the thing is, I wonder why a woman would think this is good. Because actually, it's going to, terrorize a lot of men and scare them away from getting married if they were not scared already. Because they now have to ask themselves, okay, if a wife is going to tabulate her contribution to my life in material terms, in quantifiable ways, in the event of a divorce, then why not just have a maid, an employee handle that responsibility on an agreed fee? So you say you get a maid, you agree to pay her 200,000 or however much you agree on with the maid, and then that maid then performs those duties on those terms. And if she decides she wants to quit being your maid, you only owe her as much as what you agreed to pay. which is a lot more manageable, I think, than, let's say, having a wife bill you for services rendered, because I have a feeling the wife won't charge market price for her services, the market rate.
Well, according to this ruling, they are supposed to consider what the market rates are in comparison
How does that make you feel? Can you imagine? So now I'm going to have to measure your contribution based on the market
But you see,
rates.
in as much as the maid is cleaning for you and doing all these things, the maid is not the one giving birth to your children, and the maid is not the one that is nurturing your children, and that is the biggest contribution.
But see, that's a different thing, because mostly in a domestic situation, yes, I know childcare is an important aspect, but I think when you're thinking in terms of the chores, when it comes to sort of medical care or home care of the sick or something like that, these are tasks that can more easily be delegated to outsiders and third parties, right?
You can delegate the chores, but you're not necessarily going to delegate childcare. Like, you're not necessarily...
Even nowadays.
You're not going
even
to
that you can do nowadays.
Because childcare is one thing, but then there is nurturing. Because the maid may take care of my kids when maybe I'm away at work, but everything that is inculcated in my kids, the manners and everything else, I teach them because I am their mother. And no one else is going to teach my kids the way I will teach them because I'm their mother. Even your mother, even if she's the best mother in the whole world, she is still not the mother to those kids. She is the grandmother.
Okay, so I guess the question I'm asking is that now when you have to start quantifying everything, it just turns it into a business, which it always was.
But it has always been like this.
But a lot of people would say, oh, it's all about love. Love is what it's about. Because I remember back when I used to have serious intentions of marriage, like I caught the marriage bug somewhere in my 30s. I think it was like 35 years. I turned 35. The day I turned 35 years old, I said to myself, well, I think it's time to get married. And so I decided that in my romantic endeavors from that point onwards, I would be seeking someone who could then become a potential wife. And so I found someone like that. And I invited her to have a conversation about what that could possibly entail. So, like, even before, like, any formal courtship had begun between us, like, even before we would even consider ourselves a couple or dating, I first wanted to sit down and have a conversation. As in, are you interested in marriage? You are? So am I. Let's have a meeting one day and discuss what that entails. So we sat down and I said, okay, so if I'm going to get married, this is what I would expect my contribution to be to the marriage. And I would expect that my wife contributes the following. When I asked her, what would you see your role as a wife? And she just struggled to answer the question. She just said, I will love my family. I said, okay, how? I will love my family. What does that mean? Break it down. In what ways? Are you going to like be providing food? Are you cooking? Are you cleaning? Are you caring? It's like, but you're making it sound like I'm a maid. So many women for the longest time have shied away from actually quantifying their duties in tangible ways. For a number of reasons. First, I think it sort of kills the romance element of marriage, number one. And number two, it makes the marriage or the role of a wife look like a job, which most women are quite resistant to accepting. Now, as a man, I'm quite happy to accept the role of a husband as a job because I'm okay with accepting obligations and responsibilities. Women mostly just want to go with how they're feeling at a given time. They don't want to be made to feel like they are supposed to perform a function.
But when they do get into these marriages, they actually perform the functions. You want food in the house.
Do they though?
Yes, they do. You want food in the house. There is going to be food in the house. You want to have children. If she wants to have children, she will have your children.
So let me ask you this question. So if you're a man and you have a maid in your house who performs all of at least the direct hands-on domestic duties, okay? Then it means that a wife's role in your life would probably exclude those functions, right? And it would be mostly a friendship. So let me ask you a question.
When you marry someone or when you think about the role of a wife, you think about house chores. That is her main role in the house.
You know, it sounds unromantic, but I feel like if you're not providing you're like removing like 80% of what the role of a wife is.
80%. So women are meant to come into your homes and just do chores.
See,
that is their greatest contribution.
See, now you're in your feelings.
I'm not in my feelings. And by the way,
you're feeling offended.
You like to do that to me when you want to shut me up. I'm asking a question. are you saying that women's contribution in a home is mainly chores, and away from the chores, there is no reason why a man should get married?
Chores and sex and companionship.
Wow.
Yes. Very simple. And we can wrap it up in a nice little ribbon.
No, we are going
That's
to
all a
wrap
man
it up.
needs.
No, that's
from a
what
wife.
James Onen needs.
That's what
not
most
what
do.
a man needs. Because if you care to talk to men that are married, that have been married for years, you will understand that their wives are not only there to do chores, and that their wives have contributed immensely to the development of the family.
Except when they eventually end up in divorce court and the wife is now quantifying the chores she did, that's when he realizes
And
that, wow, actually, she saw this as a very tangible contribution. In other words, she viewed it as her role. So I don't get why before a marriage you're pretending like it's not a part of the deal. And then when you do get divorced, you want to claim compensation for it.
The assumption here is that the man was providing from the start to the end of the marriage. But one thing you are ignoring is that in most homes, especially for people around my age and your age, in most homes, there are two incomes, because very few men can afford to single-handedly
You don't remember.
take care of a home.
Have you forgotten
alone.
already?
What have I forgotten?
His money is our money. My money is my money.
That is said by young girls, but women that are married, women that are earning, they contribute to their families. And even when they are not bringing in money, they contribute in other ways. That's why,
unless you're the Speaker of Parliament, please keep quiet.
That's
all I can allow.
That's why in this ruling, they did not ignore the contribution of women that is non-monetary. Because if it was not important, if it was not bringing the family forward, then why would the justices look at it?
Now, I'm meant to understand that this, basically that standard is to be applied universally, meaning that a man also can claim these non-monetary contributions.
Yes.
In a marriage, in the event that there is a separation. So I don't know, does it just cancel itself out on both ends? Like if you cleaned and I looked after you, and don't you just see how ugly this is?
No, if you took a job, if you were earning more and I was at home taking care of the kids and cooking and doing all these things and I'm the guy, then when the divorce comes, you're supposed to pay me. I actually know someone that at some point was going places career-wise, getting more money, amassing property, and when a time came and she wanted a divorce, the lawyer advised her that you stand to lose a good amount of property and many things that you have accumulated during the time of your marriage. And you know what she did?
What?
She pulled the plug.
And
so they are separated, they are not married, but they are not divorced because she doesn't want to lose her property.
And we are seeing a lot of that, sort of these stalemate marriages where they are not divorced, but they are separated.
Yeah, even men do that. There are men who are like, I am sticking to my wife not because I love her, not because I enjoy the marriage, but because I don't want to lose my property and my money during a divorce.
It's called cheaper to keep her. Because divorcing her would devastate you financially.
But then you're married on paper. You're no longer married. Like you're no longer living like a married couple. Some of these people, some of them have even been rumored to be in the highest offices in the land, live separately.
Yes. And then they advertise that they have changed their names. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
But anyway, so let's see what this does to the marriage rate. Shall it inspire more confidence in women who now feel that they have some protection in the event of a separation? Because some will say, hey, I fear getting married because I don't want to get, taken advantage of. The law is against me. I wonder if in this ruling they feel reinvigorated and
By the way,
inspired to try marriage.
There is also another aspect that this ruling looked at. If, let's say you met me and I was a senior six leaver or even a degree holder, and you took me back to school, maybe paid for my master's degree or PhD, that too is going to be considered. Because in this case, the gentleman took the lady back for her diploma. So after calculations and everything else, she was only liable to getting 20% of what the family had accumulated over the years.
Ooh, this is so interesting. So wouldn't it just be easier for two people to keep all their finances separate? But then that defies the meaning of marriage.
And the logic of family. But even here, it doesn't matter if the monies are separate. At the end of the day, James, if I was home taking care of your kids, and even if I wasn't home, because most husbands will come to the wife and say, I saw a plot of land in Chira. It costs 80 million shillings. But then I saw another plot of land in Wakiso, somewhere in Nansana, same size, but at 30 million. What do you think? Whatever she says, even if he does it or not, she is weighing in on the matter.
So that she's to be paid?
Contribution. You don't want
That's
to accept,
BS.
but that is how marriage works.
That is what I mean is, come on. I could consult a sibling.
Well, why didn't you go to your sibling? You went to the wife.
Yeah, a border guy can be judging.
Are you going to consult your siblings about things pertaining your family, your marriage?
It's so funny because we like talking about border guys. Don't they sometimes like to have conversations about their lives, and they can start telling you, oh, there's this land I saw here, there's this what. They discuss their business plans with you.
Sometimes they will even tell you, by the way, there is a guy, he's selling land, and you're like, hey, wait a minute, how much is the land? Where is the land? Before you know it, your border guy has become your broker.
Exactly. So is he then, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, should he then quantify his contribution to your life in some way? I just feel like you were just commercializing human relationships.
It's not commercializing.
This is terrible. You give me good business advice and now I owe you money?
You went out and made money. I stayed home or even went to work and brought money, and we grew a family. So when the time comes, because this is what happens in most divorces, when the time comes to separate, the guy wants the woman to go with nothing. And in most cases, she is going away with the children. So how are you expecting the lady to take care of your kids with nothing?
That's a separate question.
But these things are determined during the divorce. And most African men, I will not speak about.
Because now it's like you want to be paid for pillow talk.
Yes.
When we lie in bed together and I'm just mumbling to you my business problems, and you say, honey, maybe you can try the other idea. Maybe that would work better.
But let me ask you, if
all of a sudden you now have a stake in my business.
No, you're saying that because most men have the more money compared to women. But in an event that you're the guy that has lesser money compared to the woman, you wouldn't be having this conversation the same way you're having it right now.
Wow. Well, anyway, I just feel like this law is just going to further complicate matters as if they weren't complicated already. Why are they bringing the heat as we approach the Christmas season? This is supposed to be a time of love and joy and happiness and not stress. Yeah, they're not doing us any favors. But anyway, let us know what you think about this. You can go to our Twitter or Facebook and leave your comment there. Let's keep the conversation going. You're listening to The Fatboy Show on your number one station, RX Radio.